But you just need to think of it as a different process. And I think that's what helps a lot. Like if you think of it as this is not my story, it's our story. It becomes a lot easier and a lot more fun as well. Like actually the writing rooms are really fun processes. It really depends on who is in the writing room and whether y'all gel and everything.
Melting Pot, a global podcast series hosted by Pyle, connects guests who have inspiring stories and reaches out to a multicultural audience over 52 countries. Guests are diverse, such as celebrities, entrepreneurs, travelers, and many more who've had a turning point in their lives and moved over to a holistic lifestyle. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, social media.
Hi, everyone. Today I'm in conversation with Anushka Mehrotra. Anushka is a writer. And her first project, Mumbai Diaries, it's a medical drama, which is on Amazon Prime. And it's been a very, very successful show. So, I mean, it's a brilliant way to start your career, Anushka. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's really exciting.
Great. So yeah, I have so much to hear from you. So without wasting any time, let's just get into a little bit about your background, Anushka. That's one. And two is what actually inspired you to start writing, and at what age did that happen?
Yeah, actually, so I was born and brought up in Bombay, and I was going to school here, and I wasn't, I don't think I had any particular thing about reading until there was this one librarian in our school who would like lend out books. And there was this one series that was just really popular, and kids, or everyone wanted it, and they would only lend those books out to kids who could read it in one day. So I think because I really wanted to read that series in particular, I started reading a lot faster and reading more, and then I got kind of hooked onto reading. So then I became a big fan of reading, but I would not write until this was when I was like in, I think, first grade. Then when I was in like third grade, I think we had a teacher who would my handwriting was really bad, so she told me to keep like a diary during the summer where I was just supposed to write about my day. And I still have it somewhere, and I was clearly very lazy about it. I would write like half a page and then draw on the bottom half of the page because I didn't want to have to fill up a page of writing.
Right.
But I think what was like boring to me was like writing about my day, because like there wasn't any excitement in that. So halfway through, I started writing stories in it, and that I really, really liked, because like that you can see suddenly like I'm filling up page after page because I just got really into writing the stories, and I'd always loved reading them. So I think it was kind of an extension of that. And I had a little sister who would love reading these stories that I wrote. So it also helped to have like a little fangirl at home.
So do you have like a collective of the stories, and is it something that at some point you would be interested in publishing?
Well, not these ones that I wrote.
No. Why? I mean, I think
terrible.
I think it would be interesting for kids, you know, who
they were really bad. They were horrible. I think the only person who would enjoy it was my little sister, because she was like 5 years younger than me, and so she and like was very much in awe of anything I did. So for her in particular, it was good. But no.
So I'm not sure if today she feels the same way of, you know, being in awe of you, because I guess both of you are a lot older now. But anyways, let's come back to so that's when you really got inspired and you started to write.
That's when I started to write, yeah.
Okay.
And then I got really into making plays for my friends and things to act in. So I would write the play and then get all my, whichever friends were at my house, I would like write a play and get everyone to like act in it together. And they were also terrible. Like there are videotapes of my dad like complaining in the background, like this play is going on forever, they don't know what they're doing.
So then, moving on, did you study writing for college, or was it? I mean, so did you sort of have any kind of formal education for it, or you just continued to write and evolve as a writer?
Yeah, no, I did have formal education. Well, like when I was I think in India, it was still this, like now, I think they're getting a lot of writing courses, but like when I was in boarding school and stuff, it was more like almost like it treated like an extracurricular to join like a writing class. So I was very keen on when I went to college to major in writing. And I'm lucky that my father is in a creative field, so that they actually were not, my parents were not opposed to me doing that, pursuing it as like they told me like it's hard to get into a creative field, but and you should be aware that it's very hard to make a living doing something like this. But I was very keen on actually getting a proper formal writing education.
So would you say that this is your dream job?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I think I'm one of those people that all my friends in school are like always talking about how crazy it is that they're doing what they do now, and they never imagined in school. But they're all like, oh, but Anushka is doing exactly what we always imagined she would do.
So tell me a little bit about so you are essentially a screenplay writer. What category could I sort of slot you in? Because you could be a script writer or an author or a screenplay writer, correct?
Well, yeah. So I would say, well, in the industry, you'd say you write story and screenplay, which means that you would be involved in writing the story, the basic story of the show, and then converting it into the actual screenplay format. But I'm involved right from the start, where it's like coming up with characters a lot of time, and coming up with the relationships, figuring out the plot of the whole season. So that's the story. And then the screenplay is the official document that they follow while they're shooting.
Okay, so do you also come up with the ideas of or the concept of the story and pitch it? Or so what? I mean, if you can just take my listeners and me through like the process of from when it starts to when it gets filmed. What are the different layers that you need to go through?
Well, generally I'm brought on in a stage. I mean, so with Mumbai Diaries, it was different. I was working at the production house that had basically like, they had a one-line concept essentially. It was just like a couple of lines of this is the basic story, and they gave it to me, and me and the other one of the directors, we just kind of sat down and came up with characters, came up with relation, like ideas of what we wanted to see. So that was very much from scratch, where you come up with the characters, you come up with their names, you come up with where do I think they're from, where do I think they're going. A lot of times I'll be brought on as a writer once all that is done, and I'm there to help use that as a baseline and build a story out of that. So it really depends on what the project. But generally what would happen is, if I'm coming up with an original concept, for example, if I have my own idea, I would make what's called a story Bible. So that involves like it's basically a document that has like, this is what happens across the whole first season of the show. This is who each of the characters are, and how they're going to develop over the course of the show. Then you would write the episode, in each episode what happens. And then you would likely also include a screenplay for one episode, because to kind of show whoever is picking it up, this is the tone, this is how I hear the characters, that kind of stuff. So that is together, that's a story Bible, and you would generally use that to pitch the show to platforms. So
Okay.
if you want, like, if you think Amazon would be a good fit, you would use that and you would pitch it to Amazon, or a production house who will then take it to a platform for you.
Say you've ideated the story, and you've kind of put in a lot of your thoughts and how you think the story should progress, and then there's intervention. So
yeah,
as a creative person and as a writer, how do you are there frustrations when that happens, or are you like happy to incorporate different ideas, to give it a different direction, or maybe to give it a different feel? So how do you as a writer feel about that?
it definitely, it was hard getting used to at the start, because especially when you're used to writing like stories and that kind of stuff, which is it's just you at your computer writing. What ends up on the page is what you thought in your head, and you put it out, then you only share it when you're comfortable sharing it. It's so different when it's suddenly you have to, there's a big element of compromise also when you're working with other writers, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, sometimes you'll realize that other people have ideas that, I mean, the whole reason they do writers rooms is because everyone comes with their own ideas, and the whole idea is to take the best of everyone's ideas and put it together. But a lot of times, that causes arguments, and you get very stuck to one idea that you feel passionately about, but someone else feels passionately about something else. And it was definitely a major learning curve to get used to that. But with screenwriting, it's eventually, it's gonna, when it comes on screen, it's completely different from the way you imagined it in your head, because even after you're done with the writing, so many other people come on board. The directors come on board, the producers come on board, everyone comes with their own thing. The actors will come and improvise something. So what it ends up being is something that, again, they're building on the foundation of your script to create something new. So it's never going to be exactly what you pictured in your head. And I think that so you just need to think of it as a different process. And I think that's what helps a lot. Like, if you think of it as, this is not my story, it's our story, it becomes a lot easier and a lot more fun as well. Like, actually, the writing rooms are really fun processes. It really depends on who is in the writing room and whether y'all gel and everything. But even the arguments can be so much fun if you're with like the right crowd of people who listen and take ideas and are willing to have that little bit of interrogation, a little bit of back and forth.
That's quite interesting. So do you end up being on the sets while the filming is on, or not, or is that not something a screenwriter needs to be doing?
Well, it depends again on the directors and the kind of thing as well. Like, sometimes for like maybe a television thing, like a daily soap or something, they have the writers on set so that if they need to change a line quickly, they can have the writers there. In the processes I've been through, you don't need to be on set, but I'll go there like just to see, of course, it's part of the experience. So it's fun to go once in a while, but generally they don't need you on set, because the writing is because especially with the new OTT stuff, a lot of shows, all the episodes come out at the same time. So you write it and lock the episodes way before the prep for shooting even starts.
So who really inspires you? I mean, in terms of, in your field, in your industry, is there anyone whom like you think, oh my God, if I could work with this person, or if I could be a part of, a part of the team, anyone, anywhere, from any industry across the globe, obviously any film industry or television industry, any one person who just stands out for you?
Well, not so much one person. I mean, I get inspired by a lot of different people, and I think that it's not also necessarily like people who are connected to my industry, but there are a lot of people that I like who are creative people who I get really inspired listening to them talk or seeing their creations.
Yeah.
Like Lin-Manuel Miranda, for example. I love, like, Hamilton made me like excited about creating again. So he's like one of those people that, like, every time I see something of his, I get excited. But in terms of our industry, I think I would love to work with like a Pixar type company, because I think like the stories in Pixar movies really touch me. And I think that I would love to do something like that someday, where it's like, despite it being for children, it has this universal appeal and this universal, and it just has these, they always touch on emotions and, like this raw feeling, despite the fact that like the storylines are fantastical, but the emotions are always like, feel so real, and they always touch you. And I think they move me a lot. So I would love to work with, something like that, and work with an animated film and write for an animated film someday, because I think that would be really, and it allows you to push your boundaries a lot more, animation, because you can just go out, really stretch your imagination.
Exactly. I was going to say it's more imagination than anything else. So there's no, it could be real, it could be so far away from reality as well, but because it's animation, it kind of works. That's interesting.
But even in our industry, like Zoya Akhtar, for example, I love her films. I love internationally, I love Christopher Nolan films. Like, there's so many people that I think I take inspiration from.
Okay, plagiarism. That is a term which is, constantly kind of being heard in, whether when you were at school or, and especially, in the music industry or in cinema. How kind of, how big a part does it play in writing? Because you have to you could be inspired by something, and then it suddenly becomes a copyright issue or plagiarism. So what are some of the things that you need to really take care of to avoid a controversy?
Well, I think, see, the thing is, there's no such thing as original ideas anymore in that sense, right? Like, everything has been done before. If I pitch an idea to someone, they'll say, oh, but I saw a film 6 years ago which had a similar story. Okay. I think the whole thing is just leaning into, but I still think, like, so ideas can seem similar, but it's the way you write it that makes a difference. So me and another writer could write an exact same concept, but we would handle it in completely different ways. And I think there's nothing wrong with taking inspiration, and like what they say, poor writers imitate great writers, steal. It's like that. Of course, you're going to use elements that you see in life and use those in your work, but I think the important thing is like staying true to what appeals to you and how you would handle something, because it can't be plagiarism if you're writing what comes authentically to you. It's plagiarism if I were to go to take a book and copy paste entire paragraphs, that's plagiarism.
So how many scripts would you write sort of together simultaneously? Can you do more than one? Because then if you're doing more than one, are you kind of taking away focus from one to the other, or you become so sort of it comes to you so naturally that you're able to do multiple scripts at the same time?
Well, so for example, right now I'm doing 3 projects at the same time, but I've chosen 3 projects which are different enough from each other that I don't feel like I'll mix up details, because I think the issue is the details, right? Because storylines change so much that if I'm writing 2 thrillers, for example, I might confuse the details of one and the other because I'm writing so many drafts and there's so many voices and you're changing it so much. So to avoid that, I'm doing 3 different genres.
Before I wrap up, quick question. Have you ever considered, or will you, maybe it's still early days, but will you consider writing a novel?
I mean, I've written like a first draft of a novel.
Wow, that's
well,
interesting.
I started it when I was in college because, for our thesis, we had to write a part of a novel. So I wrote the first 4 chapters of this novel. And I during the pandemic, I guess I had a lot of free time. So I actually finished the first draft. It's hard to get back into it though, like when you've taken a long break from it and you have to go back and edit and rewrite, and when you don't have deadlines the way I have with my screenwriting. Like here you have people sitting on your head being like, where's the episode, send it now. With your novel, it's a little harder, but I do want to I do hope that I can finish it soon, because
and so what is the genre for the novel?
It's like a crime thing, not based on anything in real life, but it's set in Bombay and about like assassins in Bombay kind of situation.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So, who has read your first draft? Anyone?
Yeah, one of my best friends has read it. My sister's read it. My parents have read it.
and what's their feedback?
Well, my parents and sister loved it, but they're my family, so they're biased, I think.
No, but they could also be very, very critical. So
it's true. They've given a lot of feedback also, I will say. And my best friend also, she's also a writer, so she's also given me a lot of feedback. So it's nice. I've got a lot to actually work on for my next draft of it.
Excellent. So I think in the next few years,
hopefully
there'll be a novel by Anushka Mehrotra. Thank you so much, Anushka. It's been it's been lovely talking to you, and hopefully, all the listeners and viewers get a little insight on what it means to actually be a writer, a script writer, a screenplay writer, and coming from someone so young, and the enthusiasm and the passion that I can hear in your voice, I think will inspire a lot of young people. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Anushka. And it was great talking to you. Thank
you.
you. And good luck. And good
Thank
luck.
you.
For more weekly conversations, do listen to Melting Pot on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts. Follow us on YouTube and on Instagram at Podcast Melting Pot. So until the next episode, this is Payal signing off.